Hi, Rachel.
Hi.
Thank you so much for coming on this conversation with me today. And I have to give a huge shout out to the shirt that you're wearing on um, Pumpkin Spice Power Bar launch day. So,
Yay.
yeah, I'm so excited when you get to get yours and try them. And yeah, it's just very festive of you.
I'm hiding them because I ordered 2 boxes and I'm like, they're gonna be my little treats.
Yeah. Yeah, that's like one thing that we keep hearing is people are like, I have to hide them from my family and they like have
Yeah.
little stashes. Um, okay, well, I'm so excited to like have this conversation specifically with you because I know that we definitely share an affinity for health and wellness, but actually, an area of health where I am more in the dark than others is clean beauty, and that is something that you are a well of knowledge on. So, I have a feeling that I'm going to learn a lot from you today.
Yay.
But to get us started, can you just, for anyone who's listening or watching, introduce yourself and kind of how you got to where you are?
Sure. I like to say I'm a Southern girl at heart. I was born and raised in Texas, and we now live in Colorado. We've been here for about 3 years, and we live in the mountains. I love it. So I love being outside and just kind of being a nature girl, and trying to find food and product that's as much from the earth as possible. That's kind of always been
Mhm.
something in me. I'm a mama of 3, so I have an 8-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a baby that just turned 1, who also happens to share the same birthday as my husband, which is kind of a funny
That's so
fact.
fun.
Let's see, what else can I tell you? I mean, I do. I love clean beauty. It's been about a decade now since I would say I like switched over my kit. I used to work in portrait photography for almost a decade. And with that, I did a lot of makeup artistry. And I think, like most people's stories, when I was deciding like, oh, maybe we want to start a family, we were kind of having these conversations, I started looking into cleaning things up and was really awakened to just how important it was and how there are so many elements that we can't control. But that was one thing I really could do something about. And then that was taken up an extreme notch when my daughter, when she was around, I think 2 or 3, she had her first huge asthma flare, like in the hospital, can't breathe, very, very scary, felt like, like near death experience. And that kept happening to her. And we worked with a lot of all different kinds of like the crunchy side of holistic health and then mainstream doctors and everything. But the message was truly the same in terms of like, this is a condition, she has it, do what you can to make it better. And one of the things that, again, I found played a role in that was, well, I can control what she puts on her body and obviously in her mouth too. So that kind of, like I said, took it up a notch. That's actually when I joined Beauty Counter, because I liked the fact that it wasn't just a company that was saying, here, we're going to give you this clean product. They were saying, we're going to do better and we need better. And so we're not just going to produce a clean product. We're going to actually lobby for change, see the laws switch over. And in the meantime, like, have full integrity and really work to educate people on the importance of this. And I also, like I said, I came from makeup artistry. So I wasn't okay with just like slathering coconut oil on my face. I wanted something that worked. Like, I'm used to pro products and things that will last and perform. And so it's so nice because I was really at the beginning of sort of, they call it the clean beauty revolution. And back then the stuff kind of fell off your face and it wasn't as high performing. And now you're seeing brands really go into luxury and kind of find this strategic way of combining both science and nature to
Mm.
give you these high performing products, but not having to compromise human health, which is exactly what we want.
Yes. And that actually brings me to a question, because I think I was listening to another podcast. It was a Deliciously Ella podcast on skincare. And she was talking to a skincare expert about clean beauty and this exact subject. And she said, the skincare expert, the dermatologist, said that there has to be some, I feel like I'm jumping ahead, but we're going to go back and unpack your story for sure. I have a lot of questions, but just to sort of a seamless transition into this question, she said there has to be some type of preservatives, or kind of like, to your point, science in product, because otherwise there would be bacteria and stuff, and you don't want to be like putting that on your face. So kind of talk to me about that, like, fine line that clean beauty product brands have to walk in terms of like wanting to make things as natural as possible, but also wanting to make them safe. Like, what are some ways that these brands go about that?
100%. And honestly, I have had jars of cream blush that I've opened up by companies that have toted, we don't have any preservatives, and I will see the mold growing on the sides. So what you need is, you do need a little bit of that science. So let's take, for example, the chemical phenoxyethanol. You know, a lot of people really don't like that as a preservative. They see it in the product, they're like, it has preservatives, I'm not using it. But if you use a preservative at the absolute minimal amount necessary, it will ward off these opportunistic bacteria like mold. And I mean, what's more damaging? You know, you have to weigh that out. And I think that I trust the scientists on this side of it, that something at such a small minimal amount to ward off the thing, what you really don't want, is important. Especially things like mascara that you're getting right there near the eye, and then you can get, you know, your eye infections, your styes, inflammation in the skin, any of these kind of things. So there's always research being done on preservatives, and I think companies are always looking for the safest ones that they can use, like ethyl hexyl glycerin, I think, and phenoxyethanol are two that I see used, and then sodium benzoate, I think. There's all different ones, but if you can use them at a small percentage, then they're very effective. And we have like hardly any beauty or really like skincare, anything, any products you're putting on your personal care products, we'll say, laws at all. And there's only, I think I heard someone talk about this a few years ago, I think there was only like 7. One was, anytime there's water in a product, there needs to be preservative. And a lot of companies are not following that standard because, again, we don't actually have in the United States anyone checking that list to prove that the standards, or even the minimal standards we have, are even met. So you will see, if you flip over a jar and there's water and there isn't any preservative in it, even the safer side of preservatives, that's an area for concern, because again, you're opening it up to the fact that it can feed that opportunistic bacteria. And then a lot of it is like, I know I'm getting like nitty gritty nerdy here, but a lot of it is container and packaging too. So anything you're opening up, like I said, like the cream blush, you know, that's being exposed to air, and air can be a problem. So like you'll have brands now that are more sealing the products or doing pumps, and it keeps it more sanitary. So those are other little tips that you can look for, is just the actual packaging. Glass tends to preserve herbal products better, especially ultraviolet, where you get that dark, not amber, but it's really like an ultraviolet jar.
Yes.
And it will preserve the herbs better than like plastic. Anytime I see plastic, and I know that the essential oil, because it goes top to bottom what's highest in the product, right? So if essential oils are like way up on the top of the product list and it's in plastic, it's cause for concern for me, because I know that essential oils, if they're truly potent, will eat plastic. So you have to be careful with that too.
Yeah, no, that's all fascinating. And, you know, I think hearing you even say those really long, sciencey sounding names, I mean, it's so different from the food industry, because we're taught, and I advocate for, like, if you're reading a label on the back of a food product and it kind of sounds like that, or that you don't even know what it is, so your body couldn't read it either. And but it sounds like that's not necessarily the case for the beauty industry, and that some of those sciencey sounding names are not only necessary, but they're harmless, or they do more good than harm. So I think that's what
Mhm.
kind of makes it overwhelming for someone who's
Yeah.
completely just new to this, and wanting to make a change. So how can someone educate themselves if they're just starting out, or what advice would you give to someone who's completely new to products like that? I know you just gave some great tips, but maybe some,
Mhm.
how you
Resources.
kind of, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So two things I like to recommend to people, even if you're not planning to use Beauty Counter, go and look at their Never list. They have
Mm,
like, about 1,500 ingredients of things that you should never use in products. So you can kind of go
mhm.
scan those, because honestly, it's just not fair, right? We're not meant to be chemists. And I always tell my daughter, I'm like, a lot of the reason I'm doing this is because I don't want you to have to flip over, you know, a bottle in Walgreens one day and have to know these sciencey names. Like I want you to just be able to trust that they're
The
safe and you're taken
brand.
care of. But in the meantime, we don't have that. So yeah, you're right. We have to be, we have to use our best discernment to try to make choices with what's in front of us. So the Never List is great. Another resource, there's two. I I really, well, two I wanted to talk about. I see a lot of people using the Think Dirty app, and I'm not a big fan of that one because it doesn't really take into account a lot of research done. For example, I'll give you an example. Um, like it would scan any product that you have in your bathroom, and people like it because it's on their phone and they can just scan their products. Any product that you scan that had talc in it, it would scan it and it would say, oh, that's a dirty product, like that's going to rank
Mm,
really poorly. But the reason why is because talc, often when it's sourced incorrectly or it's not sourced wisely, it will be sourced next to asbestos a lot of times. And that's why like Claire's, the retail chain store, made the news multiple times about asbestos being found in the powders of their products for little girls. And it's because of that. Like when it's poorly sourced, that can happen. But if you
mm,
have a company that's third party testing their talc, then it's really no different than, say, mica or any of these other minerals that are used to compose a product. So it doesn't take into account things like that. Whereas
mhm.
EWG, which is the Environmental Working Group, they have a branch called Skin Deep. And I really like that. It'll have tons and tons of products already in there, like online inventory of scanning you can do. So, I mean, you can go type major brands, Charlotte Tilbury, Chanel, Clinique, whatever you want to look up, you can look up the products and it will break down each ingredient and on a scale of 0 to 10, how harmful or safe they are, and then what zone they're in. And then if there's things that are found in it, it'll tell you what it is. Like, is it organ toxicity? Is it endocrine disruption? It'll break all of that down. And then if you want to take it even further and you're like just getting into this journey and you're thinking, oh my gosh, what do I have that's even safe? You can build your own report on there, which I think is awesome. Like you can go onto the website of any brand, copy and paste their ingredients, paste it into Skin Deep, EWG's reference guide, and it'll generate your own report of like how your products stand that you're using. Because that's another thing too. This is like a whole tangent probably for another day, but there's this whole concept of greenwashing, which means companies will be like, I mean, you see it in food too, right?
Right.
Natural. Like my husband was
Yeah.
doing that the other day. I bought the chicken sausage that was natural. I'm like, that means nothing.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
and so it's the same way with beauty. They'll be like clean, or they can say whatever they want. There's no regulation. And
Right.
so a lot of these brands, like for example, I have some of Charlotte Tilbury's products. Are they organic? No, but they test totally clean on EWG. And when you actually look at the ingredients, like, oh, and probably some of that is because it's a European brand and Europe is like light years ahead of us on
Yeah.
quite a few things, but definitely on
Yeah.
keeping products clean. So those are just some resources and kind of things to keep in mind and not to feel overwhelmed. I I mean, that's another thing that I do personally like about Beauty Counter is it was a relief for me to have one place I could go and really trust everything. because I was spending a ton of money, to be honest, like picking this from this side and this from that side. And some of it would perform and then you can't really return it. You know, some of it wouldn't perform. You couldn't really return it. And so just pick your brands that you feel really good about what they're doing and that you can align with and that you trust. And that will eliminate a lot of the stress of feeling like, oh my goodness, how am I going to overhaul everything?
Yeah, no, that's awesome advice. And those are great resources. Thank you. And
Mm-hmm.
been said a buzz phrase, endocrine disruption. And
Mm-hmm.
so, I mean, this isn't something that I learned that products could even do this, you know, until like, you know, just a few years ago. So will you kind of explain like why it's so important for someone to even care about clean beauty and like what they're putting
Yeah.
on their body, and what it means to be an endocrine disruptor?
Yeah. This is the most startling, it's not a scare tactic. It's just the truth. There was 211 was the last statistic I saw, toxic chemicals, like toxic ingredient, repercussions, we'll say, found in newborn babies' cord blood. So that just goes to show you, your skin is an organ. It eats what you put on it. So like, that's actually why I often, whenever people come to me, they're like, I'm ready to do all my makeup, I'm overwhelmed, but I want to do everything. I'm like, start with your skin first, start with your moisturizer first, because that's what your body actually eats and absorbs. And it goes into your body, your bloodstream, and it can mimic the thing, hormones. It can really affect how your body functions. Is it the whole of everything? Absolutely not. Everything plays its part to contribute to overall wellness or overall sickness, basically. So I'm never going to say it's everything, but again, it's just one tangible thing that it's just like your food. Like, we can't always affect our genetics. We can't always affect our environmental stressors, but we can affect what we put onto our skin, and it does play a role in the body. Especially like, and even our CEO at Beauty Counter says this, but this is probably, if there's one takeaway, I always just tell people, get rid of everything that has fragrance. That is one thing. It's a trade secret. So they can put hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of mixed chemicals into one fragrance, and they never have to disclose what's in that. So something like that, I mean,
Kind of like the natural flavors in food.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, okay, this is a little too mysterious.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, tell me more. So it's like that. And I think if you really can get to believe the fact that, like, when you're putting something on your skin, it's taking seconds for it to get into your bloodstream. I saw 26 seconds was the statistic that I read. And then, so like a fragrance, that's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of chemicals that are just going into your body, so that's an easy one to be able to cut out. And I mean, there's so many resources now for you, and so many people that are like providing free information to help online, that I never want anyone to feel, I'm sure you see this with food too, like often I think fear doesn't motivate, it paralyzes, and then people get stuck and they don't know what to do. So just start somewhere, like I said, start with your skin, start with a deodorant. Like, anything you can do is better than nothing. And it should feel empowering to feel like, this is one area of my life I can do something about,
Right. Yeah. And it doesn't have to happen all at once, because I think that's what overwhelms people, not only from the decision fatigue, but also from the financial perspective. Like, to think about just like taking all of the products and not only replacing them, but like upgrading them to products that might even be more expensive, like that can be really overwhelming for somebody. So I think you're so right with just like starting one product at a time. And the convenience factor can be a little bit of a hurdle too. So I think that's what's so great about Beauty Counter is they kind of offer like the makeup side of things in one fell swoop. And I think we are getting better at like conventional stores of like holding more natural products with some trustworthy brands. So we're moving in the right direction. But I remember like just talking about Beauty Counter a little bit more. I remember going to a friend was having kind of an event for Beauty Counter, and she's a consultant as well. And she played this video, and they did reference Europe and how there's just such that discrepancy between their regulations and their products and kind of like where we are. So can you talk a little bit more about that and like why they're so ahead of the game, and what is it like from a regulatory perspective that's keeping us stuck in this really toxic space?
Yeah, I wish I knew why they were so ahead. I mean, I don't know the answer to that, but I know it's been nice to have someone leading the way on that a little bit, so that we can kind of model things after it. And the EU is just, they just do a better job. I just think it's honestly not as prioritized in America. It doesn't. So I guess this will speak to it a little bit. We got to, as consultants, sit in on one of the congressional hearings that our CEO was there for. And then by sit in, I mean, like, I tuned in from my computer at home. But anyway, so it was really eye-opening because, and I'm not trying to be like a feminist here, but it was a male leading it. And he was talking about, like, they brought all these statistics. The female that was talking brought all these statistics, and like nail salons and fungus. And I don't even remember what the events that were happening were, but I remember that the man at the front was like, wow. Like you could see, I mean, this was not for show. It genuinely shocked him, as if he was hearing it for the first time. And I think it's just like, a lot of these things, like, that are not giving credence to the human body and what all exactly plays a role. So there's a lot of push in America for Band-Aids and quick fixes and things like that. So when we're talking about the products you use matter, the food we eat matters, you have the booming medical industry. And I know, because my dad has been in pharmaceuticals and all of that stuff for like 35 years. So we have all these interesting conversations, and we love each other dearly, but we feel very different. Like he takes a pill for everything, so, and that's a booming industry. And so there's not always the priority for flourishing as close to a natural way of doing it as possible, and how important that is, and how harmful the other side can be. And so maybe that's to your point of the European way, I don't know. But I just think it's not really, I want to say it's not prioritized because people, like, part of me wants to be a little defensive and be like, it's careless, they're just not looking into it. But honestly, like I said, from seeing the absolute just shock on that man's face, I'm realizing a lot of people, they don't know better, and you can't do better if you don't know better. And so it's really, that's why the focus is so much on education, because when people understand the truth, you can't unknow it. And, you want to be a part of the change of seeing that come to fruition. So, I think that's just a lot of it is lack of education, on this kind of a level, as just like a normal person going to a store. There's not always that awareness there, and you can't always be faulted for that, but we want to be part of the people that make a difference for change by the way we live ourselves, and also by the information that we openly share.
And I'm sure it can be, a generational thing as well. And just how, this movement to cleaner beauty and, even just clean products in general is probably relatively new. I mean, I know that, when I was growing up, that was not on the forefront of my parents' minds at all whatsoever. And I'm also sure, like, as horrible as this is to say, I'm sure there are some powerful people in some very powerful positions in some of those very world-known brands that are probably fighting for the opposite. So I think that there's, but I commend the Beauty Counter CEO just for like going that extra mile of, not only creating this company that will make an impactful change on the consumer level, but like she's really fighting for that on kind of like the national, regulatory level as well. So that is just very inspiring. So before I kind of shift gears, kind of talk about some other wellness areas. I know you mentioned, so obviously Beauty Counter for makeup. I know you mentioned the brand Skin Deep, or, so what are some other brands that you kind of like for cleaner beauty in terms of deodorant or moisturizer?
Yeah. I can give you more sites that I like to browse.
Yeah.
So I really like Credo Beauty a whole lot. Honestly, Goop puts out a lot of great information on kind of that educational piece as well. And they offer a lot of, I just ordered a foam roller off their website. So I love the fact that they're like whole body wellness, and they really are doing that well on their website. A brand I love, fully support what they're doing is Cora Organics. It's run by Miranda Kerr.
What's the feminine products,
they have
right?
What?
Feminine products? Are those the feminine products?
No, it's
Cora?
just Cora or no, that's another one at Target. No, this is like they have a turmeric exfoliating mask that I love and use on the regular. So they're doing great things, and certified organic, like all the organic seals you can get. She's very vigilant to get those done. So those are a few. And then I'm trying to think, those are probably the only places I shop outside of Beauty Counter. A lot of people like Detox Market. If you live in California, they have freestanding stores there. There's just a whole blossoming community around it, and it's we're not lacking right now, which is nice. So you can kind of explore and play, and like I said, still get that high quality, because that's a huge part of it.
Yeah, no, that's great. And all of these things that you just listed, I will definitely link them in the actual post so that people can have a quick reference. So shifting gears a little bit, I mean, I know that you have a website, you have a blog, clean beauty is just one of the areas that you are interested in the realm of wellness, and other ones being food and mindfulness. I love your take on mindfulness and how you're just so real to your audience. Like you're not trying, like, especially on a day where you you share your vulnerabilities, and I think you do a really good job of communicating that it's like a journey, that there's not like a destination in terms of like having this healthy mindset all of a sudden. You're a big reader just like me, which I think is huge. So talk to me, because you're a busy mom of 3 who just for the past 6 months was at home with all 3 children. During
literally under my feet.
Yes. So talk to me a little bit about, as a busy mom, how like you go about the food side of things and trying to be, have the healthy meals, and also kind of like the mindfulness work that you do.
Yeah, well, thank you for all that you said. That's very generous. I'll start with the mindfulness piece and just say, I've learned a few things in kind of a really, honestly, almost a lifelong struggle with anxiety. And I know I've listened to every podcast. They'll say like, it's copper toxicity, it's this, it's that. I really believe in that. Sometimes people are just wired a little more.
Yes.
The empathic types are wired a little bit more to always feel that burning concern for others and like all of that. So I was that kid. A couple of things that have been the most helpful on my journey, or maybe it won't be a couple, who knows. I know one thing that stands out so much is to name it, is to really give a lot of power to whatever, like power over it. So to just be able, instead of just denying it and saying like, oh, my chest is tight, I'm just gonna, no, I'm fine, I'm fine. Like to actually just pause and say, you know, I'm having an anxious day. Let's think about what set that off. You know, like really giving it credence, to name it has given me a lot of freedom. And then to open up and be bold enough to share it. I actually went to bed, was it 2 nights ago? And I mean, I go to sleep in like 2 minutes because I'm so tired from these children. But I was laying next to Matthew and I was like, I just had a day where I was hard on myself all day long. And I told him, I said, I'm exhausted. I'm mentally exhausted from playing through the scripts of everything I was hard on myself on today. And he said, I mean, we've been married since '07. So a while now, over a decade. And he said, oh, I had no idea. Like I couldn't tell. And, you know, that's someone who's attentive to me, lives with me, knows me well. So often we can't get help if people don't know that we need that. And so vulnerability is being humble enough to say, this is where I'm at. And in doing that is the most beautiful thing, because you are able to be known. And when you can truly be known, you can truly be loved. And, but it takes guts. It really does take guts to do that and put yourself out there. And so I try with my girl friendships, I say, you know, I always want it to be a give and take. And so I will tell them when I'm having a day like that. And I will say to them, let me know if you're having a day like that. I want to be there for you, you know?
Yeah.
So as far as openness on my journey, it's because I really believe that that's huge part of healing, healing as we go, and really just keeping ourselves mentally healthy. The last 6 months have been really good in terms of making memories. I actually do love being with my kids. They've been really challenging. I wish I could show you the room I'm in right now. It's covered top to bottom in tools and paint that doesn't match, because
you
know,
it's
been
know.
like, oh, it's all covered up. But yeah, like my husband's working from home. I work from home. You know, my kids are here. I'm still nursing. So, and it's been like house projects and little tinkering things. So it's been a lot. And, it's funny because, or it's not funny, but one thing that's been really heavy on my heart is I feel like as a country, we will recover and move forward from a lot of the things that are going on right now. I think there's been this strong awareness of really nurturing and loving others well and better than we've been doing. And there's been this opportunity to like basically realize that our earth needs a lot of care, you know, like with the wildfires and everything that's been going on. So everything's just erupted at once. But I feel like in that there's really been just this good opportunity to have people be more vulnerable. And also I am feeling like I need to send out my rafts into the ocean to like give them, to help people float. Because what I was just telling, I think it was Matthew the other day, I was like, what I'm thinking through is I know that as a nation, I feel that we'll recover from a lot of these things, but I know that mental health, like what's going to be the implications of that a few months out if we're not talking about it now. So many people, like, I mean, I feel terrible for a lot of women that are having to leave their jobs that they love and do this. Trust me, I've done schooling, didn't even do it long. It's a full-time job to do this virtual schooling if you have young kids that you're overseeing. So it's a lot. And I think now more than ever, it's so important to speak up, to carve out time for self-care. My daughter said the other day, this made me so happy, because we always do like a highs and lows of the day. And usually they're screaming over each other, and it's not even that like beautiful experience. It's like, okay. But she said, she was
real
like,
life.
Yeah, she was like, my high today was that my cup was filled up And it made me so happy to hear her say that, because we talk through that conversation a lot. Like, you know, it's not selfish to fill your cup first. You're not filling your cup to sit around with your full cup all day. You're filling your cup so you can spill out and, you know, hydrate others. So it's really an unselfish act. And I worked really hard for my blog readers. Just this morning, actually, I released my first little ebook with just like a matcha recipe that I have every single morning. Yeah, that's really grounding. And then kind of my schedule for the morning. And that's been the way that I've nurtured myself, is as a mom and as just a wife and all the other things, is just getting up in the morning and having that quiet time, kind of knowing yourself, like, what does fill your cup? Is it time alone? Because I'm a humongous introvert. So for me, that cup of matcha and my morning movement of workout, whatever it may be for that day, reading a book, listening to a podcast, going for a walk outside, any of that, that's what fills me up. It's not the noise of being in a group of other people, but I have plenty of friends that are totally energized by that. So maybe, you know, their way of nurturing themselves is like, you know, if they're in a place where they can't get out with friends right now, then like a Zoom happy hour or something, you know, knowing what fuels you and feeds you, and really taking the time to invest in that, because one day this will be over, but we'll be left with the aftermath of how we care for ourselves within it.
Yes, agreed. And I always ask everyone I talk to, the final question is always on the morning routine, because I'm fascinated by people's morning routines. And I really do think that it's what the foundation for kind of creating the day that you want to have. So I might ask you to go in a little bit of detail about that, but I just love this idea of self-care and like doing what works for you. I remember having a health coaching client one time. We were talking about self-care, and I said, well, what are some things that you can implement into your day or your week to kind of fill that cup? And she responded like, oh, I guess I could take more bubble baths. And she said it like that, like a question. And I was like, and so I prodded her on that. And I was like, well, why did you have that inflection in your voice? And she was like, well, because I thought that was kind of a good answer. But she was like, but I hate bubble baths. And I was like, well, dear, then that's probably not a form of self-care for you. So I think self-care comes in many forms. And I think that, you know, to your point of, you know, whether you're an introvert or an extrovert, it's really what just recharges those batteries. And I'm like you, where like I have to take and carve out time for myself in the morning. And I will even set an alarm 30 minutes to an hour earlier so that I can guarantee that I have that space. And, you know, and my husband, who's he can be introverted, but he's also very gregarious. And he was up earlier than me, even, I think it was this morning. And so he had 2 cups of coffee under his belt, and he was like very chatty. And I like had maybe taken 2 sips of mine. And so you just got to communicate, like, let me just, I'm reading the same paragraph over and over. And I need 30 minutes before you try and have a conversation with me.
Totally. I know. And my husband and I laugh. We've been praying since my youngest was in the womb that he's an introvert, because we're both introverts, and my 2 oldest just like yell over each other. They can't wait to like be the center. And it's like, oh, just a minute. Yeah. So if I don't get up in that morning and have that time, I'm not going to get it again. So that is like my one shot.
Yeah. And I think, you know, what you said about expressing and communicating, especially when you are feeling anxiety or stressed, or even just having a low day, I think the script is changing around mental health. Thankfully, people are feeling more open to be able to share about their own struggles, but we still do have some stigma to release around it. And, you know, and especially during this year, which has just been, you know, high anxiety on a global level. I think that's so great. And, you know, just such a key takeaway from this conversation is just to be able to feel comfortable talking about it. So I absolutely love that. So with kind of the evolution of your blog, talk a little bit more about that, because it's such I was looking at it today, and it's just such a lovely space. So what are some of the things that people can find on it?
Well, it's funny because I started out with it being mostly recipes, And I was, before I gave birth a year ago, I was working as a recipe creator on the side. But now, like I really, if there was one thing that makes me feel almost the most alive is writing. And I've kind of moved away from it, but I'm trying to move back towards it. So I love the idea of just having a place to get to read and connect. And I've shared recently, I'd say the most writing I've put on there is like, which I need to do another update since he just turned a year, but like postpartum diary style writing, just to tell people like where I'm at. And, you know, this isn't always the before and after picture. Like there's a lot of hormones that change and roles that shift, and your baby's growing. So you're on your toes about that and what else they're learning and who they're becoming. And so I want it to be a space where I write, but I definitely like recently too I've been doing a monthly newsletter and investing in that. And that's been a blast. Like I love getting to, cause I keep it well-rounded. I do, I'll do like my monthly favorites at the top. And then I have a blessing that I write over people at the end, which is just a way of like sending them into the month and hopefully speaking like life-giving words over them. And then I'll do like a wellness category where I can review CBD or anything that I'm kind of playing around with that's really helping my wellness. So my focus with the blog, or what I like about blogs, is that it feels like a space that's truly yours. You know, with Facebook and Instagram, we're seeing these like threatening posts of people that overnight it's just gone. And so while I'm not always diligent to actually post on my blog, I want to build a community there, because honestly, Instagram has been my main vehicle for connecting with people, and the women I've met on there are just like champions for each other and so kind, and just all bring something to the table. So I want to be able to give back in that way too, and put time and even money into my resources to do that. So, and to support other women, like I just said, like, obviously I'm ordering the pumpkin bars, I'm going to eat them and love them, but I want to get to share and, you know, really elevate what other people are doing. Because shopping small is just like, it's just one big happy dance for everyone involved. Like you feel good there, every order matters, you know? So that's a huge focus of, my blog. It's not at all for me a money-making resource. I don't know that it ever will be. It's more of just like a vessel, hopefully, of encouragement and fun recipes. Probably some of my most successful recipes on there have been sourdough, because I do keep a sourdough starter, and I think a lot of people are intimidated by that. So that's been a fun little baby to have.
I am too. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah. Yep. So no, I love it. And I you know, I always say we definitely need to be careful with the amount of time we spend online, but if you truly use it as a resource, it can be a beautiful place to meet people and connect and make a difference.
Yeah. And just have it be a creative outlet and, you know, creating your own little community. Okay, so I want to respect your time, and we're kind of nearing the end of our hour, but you did touch on recipe creating. So I am just curious, like food philosophy in a nutshell, what would that be?
You know,
it's probably a whole other conversation.
Yeah. Well, you know how you said at the beginning, so you know it's coming. I'm very transparent. So one thing that I almost feel like a beginner again, honestly, in the food world, because my husband and I have been having probably for a year so many conversations about this. And I've done your courses, which your courses really got into my head in the best way on this too. I grew up, my mom, we had like a little vegetable garden. She cooked very simple, very plain. You know, I was a kid of the 80s, so we had like Apple Jacks, of course, and stuff. But we also always had dinner around the table, and she always made things best she could from scratch. And so all of those things were important to me, and I just ate. And when I ate, and I stopped when I was full. And then if I needed to like go out for ice cream, I went out for ice cream. I didn't second guess it. I've been on this real journey lately with food where I follow all these amazing people that have become friends on Instagram, and they're vegan, they're paleo, they're keto, they're all different things. And again, going back to that empath thing, I think I have sort of absorbed all of those as like, oh, well, then I guess I should do this, or that I guess I should do that. My husband actually has been like the podcast patrol. He'll come in, he'll go, okay, is this making things better? Or is this stressing you out?
Right.
It's all science, and it's all like so fascinating, but I have to be careful because it can take away from, but what feels good in my body, what feels right for me. So my food philosophy as of late has kind of been to love it and to love it in a joyful, like gathering experience, a way to nourish your body, a way to take care of yourself, to do what allows you to feel good, but not to elevate it to the point where we worship it as like, kind of like I said with clean beauty, like this is the thing that's going to either make us thrive or just totally fall off. Doing the best that I can, and just, not fretting about it as much. And so when the way that I've been explaining it is kind of like reducing the food noise. So lately I've been on a little bit of a journey on that. And also, it's been fascinating. I was talking to you about this. Like, I don't normally crave personally. I don't enjoy red meat. Or really, I don't even eat a lot of meat in general. But like, for example, pregnancy with both of my boys, like all of a sudden I would want a big burger. And I'm like, that is strange, And then nursing, I eat more, and I definitely crave different things. So I'm trying to learn to walk that line, food philosophy wise, of just listening and respecting, tuning in and tuning into myself and turning off the other things.
Yeah. I think that's so important. And I mean, that just simultaneously with the nutritional science, like I'm all about advocating for the how that people eat. And I think that when we bring a lot of stress to the table, it does more equally as or more harm than when we eat the things that aren't nutritionally beneficial for us. So I love that. And I think that we could spend a whole other hour going deeper. So maybe we'll have to schedule another conversation.
You'd be the one talking. I'd be just gleaning what I could with notes.
It's always a journey, it's like, we shift and change, and so does, our inner environment. So, so it's always something that I am too working on. And I love the idea about like the visual of the gathering. And I think about kind of how it's so different to bring back Europe again, and how there's I know, right? Like if we all just like were able to just move to Europe, I mean,
I cannot tell you how many friends I have that have said, I've gone to Europe, I've eaten all the bread, all the pasta, all the gelato, came back, all my pants fit. Like, I mean, it's amazing, but I think it is this wonderful thing that they have just gotten better than us, of like walking, being outside, food being an experience. Like, especially as a busy mom, I make the joke that I'm like a horse over a trough. Like, I rarely sit down to eat. It's like stand up, shovel, shovel, shovel. And like, that's not even digesting, like, so that Europe it should be a good inspirational thing for us to look to. And I hope to get to go one day. So, but
yeah, you will. We'll be able to go back there one day. Okay, so my last question, I know you've kind of touched on your morning routine, but I do ask everyone. So if you wanted just to go in a little bit of depth, I love when people share about it. So Rachel, what is your morning routine?
Well, it's funny because I used to be the girl that slept in all the time and stayed up all night doing art projects. Now I've totally flipped and I wake up really early. My son wakes up usually in the 4 o'clock hour to nurse. And if it's closer to 5, I try not to get up at 4, because I'm like, that's just like beyond senior citizen level, but sometimes I still do it. But I do go to bed earlier to like, titrate that. But anyway, I will nurse him, and then I put him back down, and I get up and I usually go downstairs, and I will turn on a podcast while I'm kind of prepping. I have to eat a snack when I wake up because my son's still waking up all through the night nursing. So I usually wake up hungry. And I will try to do some water and like a light snack, just enough to kind of send me into whatever workout I'm doing of the day. I do Obey Fitness, and I'm like the Obey fangirl. I love
No,
it.
you encouraged me to actually look them up. I haven't like tried
Oh
it,
my
but I
goodness.
definitely went to their site.
Yes, their trainers are just, I mean, they become your friends. They're just absolutely wonderful. And I love the fact that it's 28 minutes, and they even have a huge library of 10 minutes. Usually, since I'm up that early, I have 28 minutes to give. So I will do a full workout. And I switch that up. I like following more of a plan, but honestly with nursing, I don't know how the night's going to be, how I'm going to feel in the morning. So some mornings it's bar, some mornings it's strength training. A lot of mornings it's dance. I love to dance. That makes me just like absolutely get into touch. And the trainers are hilarious. Like just today I was on a dance one, and he goes, either you're working or you're lurking. Like he said, basically he was like, I know some of you guys get on this and you're just on here to watch. He's like, you got to be working if you're on here. So they're funny. They make me laugh. And so I love to dance. And I try to do what?
It sounds so fun.
It is. It's really fun. So I try to do that earlier so that I can have breakfast ready and on the table for my kids when they get up. I found, and I'm not like saying that in a brag way, like, oh yeah, and then I'm saying it because I did it really poorly, and I would come like off of a HIIT workout and then go in there, and my kids would be going 90-0, kind of like you were saying with your husband, like wanting to talk, and I'm like, let me calm down. So I've tried to like add some padding in there, and it's really helped. So I'll do my workout. I will often after that do some computer work because with my job, it's not set hours. So like I'm available all during the day. I can get a text. Will you foundation match me for this? My skin's doing this. What should I do? So I'll try to catch up and plug in during that time on the things that are lingering or things I want to get ahead of. And then the breakfast usually. And I'll often eat more than with my kids as well. But since school has started, I have this little like blessing book in the morning, and it has a morning blessing. So I've been reading that over them daily and talking through each point, and really trying to send them into their day, and not getting discouraged if they like totally don't seem to care, because I just want to show up and like try my best to, put that in their head. And even if it's just like today, the one that we read was talking a lot about strength, and maybe there's a moment on the playground where my daughter just has one little minute where she remembers, I'm strong enough to be gentle, was kind of the theme of today.
Mm-hmm. I love that.
Yeah, so we've been doing that, and then I send them off into their day, and then my day continues with the cleaning and everything else that I do for the day. But I would say those pillars of it, really, if I had to just pick one, more than podcast or reading or anything else, it's movement. And getting that in first thing. If I wait till the end of the day, because people always say, oh, you're motivated. How are you motivated? If I wait till the afternoon, I probably won't do it. Right. But if I do it in the morning, I feel it's funny. No matter how tired I am, if I do it, if I'm super tired and I need to go gentle, even if I do gentle yoga, I consider Pilates more gentle. I feel so energized that I have what I didn't have before, going into the day. Yeah. And then I don't do coffee. I do my matcha every single morning, and that recipe is in there too. But yeah, so just like grounding things, and really, I can't encourage people enough. It does get easier to get up early, and
you adapt.
And that's a really great time to do it, because often our energy stores are pretty depleted at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I notice a huge difference in my mental clarity and in my mood if I don't move first thing. And, I think I always think back to how we were like primal ancestors days of like, we woke up and we went searching for like, we're just supposed to, and I always try to, and like when I let the dog out, like I'll step outside for probably like 20 seconds just to like get acclimated to that light. I think that really helps circadian rhythms. And
Oh,
but
for
just
sure.
yes, the movement and your energy just gets so overnight that you just need to kind of just move it out. That it's a game changer. So I'm right there with you. If
Yeah, get the
anything,
blood
that would help us.
pumping.
Yeah,
All of it, really.
all of it.
Endorphins. Yeah.
Best. All right. Well, thank you so much for
Oh,
having this
thank you.
conversation with me. I mean, I know I learned a ton and I can't wait to share it with others because I know that it'll just be such helpful information on such an important topic. So thank you again.
Oh, you bet. It's been a joy. And thank you. I'm so glad to know you and to
Oh,
learn from
right
you
back
and
at
just
you.
be your friend.
You too. You too. This has been so great. I know we'll talk soon. And I can't wait to have those pumpkin spice bars arrive at your door so you can try
I
them. And
know.
happy fall.
Okay. See you later.
See ya, Rachel. Have a good rest of your day.
Bye.
Bye.